78% of NFL players go broke within 2 years of retiring. 60% of NBA players are broke within 5 years. And we're talking about guys who made hundreds of millions of dollars disappearing into thin air. People think it's because they buy too many Ferraris, but the math doesn't add up, you guys. You have to really try hard to spend 100 million on cars. You know, Mike Tyson, he lost $400 million. It's way deeper than that. You get this spending habit, and a spending habit and lifestyle ends up being the way that so much of this capital comes and just flows right back out of their bank account. And really the reality is these guys think it's going to last forever. And then in any athletic career, mine included, because I had 12, 13, 14 years as a professional athlete, won multiple X Games gold medals, I can tell you firsthand, there were so many guys who lived beyond their lifestyle and said they'll save and invest later that never did. And all of a sudden that contract comes to an end, like it does for everybody. And if you're not savvy, you haven't parked some of that capital, you're back to working at the grocery store before you know it. And I saw it over and over again. I'm going to show you guys exactly how the trap works and the boring strategy that we're using to build a $450 million portfolio instead. Before I get into our portfolio, guys, I just want you to hear, I wasn't born rich. I was an average guy from Minnesota. Like I was making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck. I was working at TGI Fridays bussing tables. I worked at Blockbuster. I worked at Red Lobster before my snowboarding career took off. Heck, I had to bike to Blockbuster because I couldn't afford a car. I was even eating peanut butter and jelly for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a true story. And that happened for years. And then suddenly I go from making 3, 4, 5 grand a year to becoming a professional snowboarder, making $500,000, 600 grand a year. And my brain wasn't wired to handle that. I wasn't exactly sure what to do there. And when money started to flow in, the best thing you could possibly do is get a hold of that and create a savings habit, create an investing habit. How can I find a way to make that money work for me to start to pay me instead of what can I go buy and frothing and thinking about the new house, the bigger trips, the airplane, the jet, whatever it may be. And that little shift is going to completely dictate a different direction of where you're going to end up. And it doesn't matter if you're a high income earner right now, if you got the frothing spending habit. One of my best friends back home is a dentist, and he was making 500 to 600 grand a year back in early 2000s, and he spent 500 to 600 grand a year. So at the end of the day, there was no improvement to lifestyle. It was, I'm maxed out. And when things ended, it ended in a pretty rough manner. So it doesn't matter if you're a high professional earner, if you're a professional athlete, if you're making good money, you have to connect the dots of I got to save to invest and get my capital working for me versus frothing and figuring out, hey, where can I put this capital to buy me my next liability? For me, when I started to make money, you guys, it wasn't difficult for me to invest it because I could see the end, right? I had the gift. And it was a painful gift, but I had the gift of getting to know my heroes, guys that I watched and looked at in videos and magazines growing up in Minnesota. They became my friends. And when I saw their careers wind down and I saw them end their careers and I saw them lose their homes, I saw them get divorced, I saw suicide, that right there was all I needed. So a gift of pain made it very easy for me to say, okay, I have to do something different. If I'm lucky enough to have a 10, 15-year run and become as big a name athlete as these guys, I can't take the same avenue of buying the big home, the big cars, and traveling like it's never going to end. I've got to invest. So for me, it wasn't really that difficult because I could see the roadmap of others who didn't invest. And it scared me. And that fear, although uncomfortable and painful, it was the lesson that separated me and allowed me to invest in real estate at a pretty young age in the beginning of my snowboarding career. If you're sitting there making good money, whether that's W-2, business income, whatever, and you feel like you should be further ahead than you are, it's probably not an income problem. It's a structure problem. I put together a free blueprint that breaks down exactly what I mean by that, and it covers the 3 tax buckets, why most real estate actually fails as a tax strategy, and the capital framework I personally use to evaluate where money should go as income grows, and it's completely free. Links down below. Something that's super critical to understand that I learned from one of my mentors is high income is temporary and assets are durable. And what that means is this. In my snowboarding career, if I wanted to get paid, I had to snowboard. My income that was high was 100% dependent on me riding and performing at a high level. And as soon as that stopped, which it did as I aged, as my interests changed, as I had children, the high income stopped as well. And that's what I mean, it's temporary. Whereas assets, when you own an asset, it's much more durable. You have much more control over it. If you buy right, you got fixed debt, do a solid value add strategy, buy in an A+ location, you now control when to exit that deal. You control how to drive NOI. You control how to cut or control expenses. And that right there, that decision of when we choose to exit or not exit, that's what I mean when I say assets are durable. So if you're making good money, ask yourself, do I have control of my income or does someone have control of it? And if you don't have control of your income, you're in a much more dicey scenario, to put it blunt. And this pertains to anybody, you guys, not just athletes. If you're a professional high income earner, ask yourself, do I control my income or does someone else control my income? As I speak to so many doctors and lawyers and folks who invest with us, I always ask them, why is it so difficult for so many of their peers or people that don't invest? And the reality is as educated as these doctors and lawyers and high income earners are, they weren't educated on what to do with money. The whole premises of going to college was getting this information to go work a job to make a high income. But making a high income is only 50% of it. Literally half. Like I go and make the income as an athlete or as a doctor or a lawyer. And then the question comes down to it is, what are you going to do with it? Because a bunch of capital given to someone who's young or a professional that doesn't know what they're doing with it is actually dangerous. It actually can create more pain, more problems in the future. And so the biggest lack I see just nationwide is the lack of financial education of what do I do with a dollar once I have it? Because you've got so many choices, right? Do I go spend it? Do I invest it? Do I save it? Do I give it away? What do I do with it? And that's the biggest piece right there is you've got to know what to do with the money you're making. And if you don't know what to do with it, that involves education, further knowledge, further understanding of how do I take this capital and make it multiply for me. One thing that is definitely very relevant in America right now is health. It's clear and obvious that so many people have and are struggling from great health. And one thing that I think is really important for people to have a serious look at for their financial plans is how many more years do I have and what does happen if I get sick, if I can't go to work, if I can't perform? What can you do in your young years, in your professional years to set yourself up so that money isn't going to affect you later on, so that if and when you do lose your job, if or when you do, heaven forbid, get sick, how can that not be an issue of money? How can money not be part of, I got to go worry and stress about this? So these young years or the years of being a professional are such an opportunity to put this capital to work for you so that if and when you do choose to retire or get fired or get, heaven forbid, get sick, now you've got these streams of income coming in that can offset any of that stress and allow you to have that freedom to really focus on your health, really focus on your passions. A visual metaphor, you guys, that most of you will be able to relate to is Monopoly. The mistake that most people make is they run around the board trying to collect $200 when they pass go, which is your salary, it's your income. And the strategy, we all know, the winner is the person who buys the board, who buys assets. And it works in good times and bad. It's a hedge against inflation. It's somewhat boring, but the reality is you have to get on the side of assets right now. As we go late stage 5 of the debt cycle, like we're clearly in, as they continue to print currency like they've clearly been doing since 1971, and we saw a massive boom back in 2020 when COVID hit. It's undeniable. We can see the facts. And the data says that every currency in the history of the world eventually goes to zero or has been replaced. That's 100% of currencies. And so if you know that's the data, you've got to start doing things now, sooner the better, to get on the side of when they continue to print, you're not destroyed, you're not crushed. And how can you use the inflation and the printing of currencies, which again, 100% of them in the history of the world has been replaced or gone to zero. We can pretty much say with certainty where the dollar is headed. Is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? We don't know that. But what we can say is that the value of the dollar, the purchasing power of the dollar is going down. So what do you do as an astute investor to see the data, position yourself for what's coming, and A, not get crushed, and B, actually be rewarded for being on the right side of inflation? At Granite Towers, you guys, our philosophy to battle and hedge inflation is we're focused on the fundamentals of buying great assets. We're looking at job growth. We're looking at population growth. We're looking for assets that are in submarkets with extreme pent-up demand. And when we can find an asset with extreme pent-up demand, now we can come in with a rinse and repeat value add strategy, something we've done over and over again, something our team is extremely familiar with, something that we can predict what the cost will be, and our vendors can give us bids before we close. Now we're in a scenario where we're buying a $20, $30, $40 million asset with our investors, where we can come in, inject $3, $4, $5, $6 million of capital and improve deferred maintenance, take care of immediate repairs, and do legitimate value add strategies. We might put in covered parking because tenants want it and need it. We might put in Wi-Fi throughout the property that tenants can now pay for at a better price than they could get at the market. We might upgrade interior units. Let's put in some new kitchens. Let's replace the cabinet faces. Let's put in new fixtures. Let's put in quartz countertops. Let's make it attractive. Let's upgrade the fireplace. And we do these things. And now people, when they're going and shopping in these pent up submarkets, are looking for competitive price. And based off of our 5 competitors, which we know already before we close exactly how their upgrades look, because we'll secretly shop them, we can strategically build a business plan that's real. We can control, that we can come in the first 90, 120 days and repair a lot of this stuff, upgrade a lot of this stuff. So now we're the most attractive asset in the submarket. Our goal is to be able to control and drive net operating income. That's simply what we're doing as apartment investors. How do we increase income based on the submarket? How do we give the residents in this submarket what they want, charge more for rent? How do we control our expenses, property tax, litigation, insurance, quotes, etc.? Great property management, get it under control, and drive net operating income. And that's one of the most efficient ways we found to hedge inflation, because every $1 of NOI increase on the back end with a cap rate is about $20 in value. So you can see how a dollar NOI increase is $20 in value, how quickly we can beat inflation. And that's how you use real estate to drastically change your wealth, your investment strategy, and have something as a backstop where they continue to print, and now you're on the side where you benefit from the printing. This is how real estate investors get wealthy. Yeah, the best way we've found to prepare for downside, which anytime you're investing, there's risk. Heck, there's risk if you don't invest, right? If you leave your cash in the bank. Here's an example of, you got $100,000 in your bank account in 2020. If you spend it in 2025, you could buy 75 grand worth of goods. That's just 5 years that your $100,000 only buys you 75 grand worth of goods. That's a big deal. So what we're doing to protect downside, and how Granite Towers is preparing for any crashes when we're buying a $40 million deal, is we're buying based off fundamentals. We're buying based off of data. And in real estate, you've got many different asset classes, right? You got storage, office, mobile home, multifamily, single family. All we focus on is multifamily in specific submarkets is our main focus. So when we're looking at real estate, people always ask me, Dan, is this a good deal? And the answer is, I have no idea, because I don't know the submarket. The only way you can know if a deal is a great deal and it's got downside protection is by getting into the data in that submarket. And so some of the ways we protect the downside or protect, a potential crash coming is we're buying in submarkets that are A+ locations. And what we've found firsthand, undeniably, in managing 25 assets over the last decade, is that specific locations are going to do much better no matter what's happening in the economy. You might have a down period. You might have oil crash. You might have oil spike. You might have the war going on. And these assets that are in A locations, which again would be 100,000 plus 1 mile median income, even 75,000 1 mile median income, pent up demand where there isn't enough units in a submarket and people want to live. And I say that, I'm like 94, 95% occupancy in a submarket is extreme pent up demand. You want to be in locations where you've got A-rated schools, ideally top in the city or even top in the country. We're buying a deal in Plano, Texas. It's an A-rated school and it's one of the top districts in the country. Just talking to an investor today, and he's like, I can't wait to invest in this deal because I know how many people want to live in this area purely because of the schools. You want to be in areas and locations where you've got top retail right down the road, right? We got a Whole Foods right across the street. Williams Sonoma, Sephora, Starbucks. These companies don't just build anywhere. They do an incredible amount of research and then go strategically locate where it makes sense for them. So those are some things that anyone can do to be savvy, to protect downside. And the last thing is fix your debt, you guys. Do not over leverage your deals. I say that from a place of love, and I see it right now in the market. We're buying a deal from an operator that bought in 2021 with variable rate debt, and they have to sell right now. They're forced to sell. And the biggest piece that you can do to protect downside is buy for cash flow. If you buy for cash flow and you have money coming in every month, you're now in a place of freedom. You can choose to sell or not sell. So those are some things that come to mind that are simple for anyone to do. Get to know your submarkets at a deep level. Make sure it's an A+ location. Fix your debt. Make sure that your CapEx or value add strategy is going to be wanted and needed and desperate in that submarket. And most of all, make sure there's not a big glut of supply following you. I hear a lot, people say, I don't care about money, or I don't care about being wealthy, or I don't need to be rich. And I actually really appreciate that. You don't need to be rich. And I agree, you don't need to be. But the reality is money is used every single day, and it's not going to change anytime soon from what I can see. Money is a lot like oxygen. You need it when you don't have it. When you don't have it, you need it. So the question I'd be asking myself is, what's my relationship with money? What's causing me to say that, right? Because I can't think of a time in my life where I wouldn't have liked more of it. Doesn't mean I need to go buy a new house or another car or anything like that. But if I have excess capital, I can sure give it away, right? I can find a nonprofit that I absolutely love and am passionate about, and I can go use that money as a tool to help those that have less of it. So when I hear that, and I hear it quite often, unfortunately, I just ask why. What's the relationship with money about right there? And can you change how you see it, your perception of it? Because if you can't change your perception of it, money won't come to you. Money and wealth goes to those who appreciate it, who want it, who, see value in it. And if you don't see value, you don't want it, you don't appreciate it, it just won't come to you. It's by law. So, and it's not always about you. It could be about your family. For me, I'll tell you guys, a big reason I wanted to be a professional snowboarder is I wanted to help my parents. My parents worked hard. They worked 9 to 5, both jobs, dual income, my whole life as a child. And I saw them get up. I saw them go to work. I saw them come home. And for people who worked so hard for so many years and to be affected by inflation like they're being, and like so many others on fixed income, social security, pensions, you name it, it's becoming more difficult to maintain the similar lifestyle. So it doesn't have to be about you. You can say, I care about money because I want to help my parents, my kids, my grandparents, whatever it may be. I'm going to make a prediction right now. In 10, 15, or 20 years, someone you love will need help. And the question you would ask is, will you be ready? Will you be someone who could step in? I know that's been a big driver for me, and it continues to be this day because there's people around me that I love and I have the ability to overproduce. How can I go help them? I may not give them the money, right? Depending on their scenario. I'm definitely not giving my money to my kids, because I will destroy you. Boy, my parents, if they're 80, 85 years old and they need a little help, I can't wait to step in and help them out. What a gift to be able to do that for your parents. And at this point, what are they going to do? They're 85. They're not going to change their money habits now. They've got another 5, 10 years, maybe, right? 15 if they're lucky. How do you help them live a life for the rest of their life where they don't got to worry about money ever again? The reason these athletes went broke, you guys, it isn't because they weren't talented. They were some of the most talented people I've ever been around. They were obsessed, but it's because they were playing a game they really didn't understand, the money game. They weren't taught what to do with the money they were making. They thought the game was make as much as I possibly can, but the real game is keep as much as you possibly can and invest wisely. Because again, 50% of it is making the capital. The other 50% is, what do I do with it? You don't need an NFL contract to build wealth. You just need to stop chasing the adrenaline and start chasing the cash flow. That's the separator. If you want to see exactly how we play the Monopoly game at Granite Towers, consistent, safe, downside protected, click in the link below and my team will have a chat with you to understand your situation more clearly. Don't be the guy with the highlight reel and no bank account. Be the guy who owns the stadium. I'll see you next time.